Hello everyone, my name is Dillon Lawson, and I did my book review on Carolyn Brewer's Caught in the Path, A Tornado's Fury and a Community's Rebirth. I apologize for any current and future mumbling or talking in a low voice because I am doing my presentation in a study room in the library, so I apologize for that. So to begin with, I think it can be kind of difficult to translate personal experience into social science or policy implementation because of the physical and psychological trauma that an experience or a disaster can have on someone. This can't really be easily contextualized. Everyone will experience and interpret the same disaster in a different way. And this is the main purpose of Carolyn Brewer's book. It gives a first account of the pre, during, and post effects of the tornado that carved its path through the Ruskin Heights in Kansas City, Missouri on May 20th, 1957. Brewer accomplishes this because she collects multiple individual anecdotes, as well as her own when she was 7 years old at the time, from various community members in Ruskin Heights that vividly depict the treacherous but awesome and sudden power of the tornado. And the quote that is given in the beginning of the introduction chapter is from John Ruskin, where he says, "Between the earth and man rose the leaf. Between the heavens and man came a cloud." And some background information on Ruskin Heights. It was the first post-World War II housing development in the Kansas City area. It can be, like so many residents of the generation, a lot of people who moved into Ruskin were first-time home buyers in their 20s and 30s. They came to Ruskin to raise their baby boom families with the optimism and the euphoria that was beaming out of the 50s. So, like I said, after the war was over, the country began to expand, and a housing focus shifted from urban to rural areas. Most of the families moving away were returning servicemen in demand of affordable housing and waiting to take advantage of the new GI Homebo. The picture on the right, the picture on the left indicates William Levitt's assembly line type of production for housing, and this was the reason why Ruskin Heights was made possible. The costs of each house were very cheap with no room for customizing. Each house offered, as an example on the right, each house offered 2 to 4 bedrooms, a patio, garage, kitchen, dining area, and living room. And I believe that this cost-effective but very cheap way of house production was the main reason for the destruction of Ruskin, because there were not a lot of reinforced codes on each house, and they were quickly built. And here's an actual picture of the tornado coming towards Ruskin that was taken on May 20th, 1957. The first chapter of the book, after the introduction, is titled "Look at This Cloud." And because of the National Severe Storm Forecast Center's inadequate technology at the time, it didn't have a lot of preparation to track the tornado, which didn't give a lot of time for the public to react. A kind of chilling quote that Brewer gave in this chapter was that no one was able to do anything except hold their breath. Like I said before, the main goal of this book is to present personal stories from the victims and the survivors of the tornado, and I'll be doing that in the pre-phase, the current phase, and the post-phase of the tornado. And 3 of these accounts that I picked out of the book were beginning with Bontbab, where he said, "We had a constant flow of tornado reports from ground observers. Some were already outdated by the time we could get them out on the airways. I was talking to a telephone operator who called in with a tornado report, and while we were in the midst of the conversation, the line went dead. Blaine Beck said, "I didn't really know that there was a tornado coming until it hit the school building. I had no indication whatsoever of the weather being bad, but somehow I knew exactly what it was when I heard the noise." Dorothy Katsufakis said, "We thought that it was something we could sit out. At the time, Bendix, a local retail company where Pete worked, was putting out all of this information about how to prepare for an atomic attack. Our daughter came in and said that she heard on TV to go to the basement. Then the electricity went off and we saw that big black cloud back there bouncing up and down." And during the disaster, and there's a couple of pieces of information that Brewer gave, the disaster was categorized as an F5, 500 mile per hour winds, and it was a half-mile wide. The picture on the left is another angle of tornado about to hit Ruskin, and the picture on the right is the purple line. The long purple line is the path that it crossed through Missouri. Two personal stories during the tornado were from Robert Jackson and Pete Katsufakis. The blackness disappeared. The wind decreased to a near calm and it became light. I thought the tornado had actually gone over, so I stood up and looked around. I felt that I was about to be picked up into the storm, but also at the same time felt heavy. I realized I was looking up into the core of the tornado. It was the most awesome thing. This column just mounted right straight into the heavens. Pete Katsufakis said, "It sounded like a train with bad wheels coming above you, right on top of you. All of a sudden it got quiet and I realized we were in the vacuum of the eye of the storm. We knew this wasn't the end, so we embraced ourselves and held the kids tighter so they wouldn't slip out." Brewer also provided some information about the post-disaster effects, where martial law was actually declared in Ruskin and neighboring jurisdictions of Missouri by Governor James Blair, Jr., to expedite relief work and stop looting, although help had already arrived from the other services requested by Mayor Bartle. And the casualty count was 44, 500 almost injured. The cost of the storm was $75 million, and altogether, though, it was actually a successful recovery process because of the immediate and quick relief efforts and response efforts from the local, state, and national emergency services. A couple of these examples that Brewer gave were the 110th Engineers Army Reserve came in and provided searchlights. The Jackson County Health Department set about the task of protecting the public from damaged flood from affected grocery stores and restaurants. The Salvation Army arrived within 90 minutes of the funnel. Rain and Furniture set up a 4-point plan to help victims get back on their feet. The Park Davis Drug Company offered to replace any destroyed medication at no charge. And a large section of this book was about the community bonding and the relief efforts of the community members. An interesting quote that I picked out of this part of the book was by Brewer, where she said, "Complacency blew away everything else, exposing generosity, compassion." So personal stories about the post-disaster. Brewer, keep in mind that she was 7 at the time when she was describing this information, or actually conceiving it. Our house still had some walls and part of the roof. What scared me was that the gaping hole where the front door used to be, all of the twisted metal and spiked wood sticking out of the front of the house. Through the hole I saw an unrecognizable landscape. There were no houses, no trees, nothing but destruction. Through the frame of the hole I saw my father helping to carry a dead woman to a torn mattress. I ran back inside to my room and found my sweet Sue doll. I didn't look over the rest of the night, but cradled her close to me. My injured baby. She had a small chip missing from her forehead, just about where my cut was. Josephine Rankin said the worst part was working out there and seeing sightseers go by. The next day we cleared what we could and searched for anything that we could salvage. but the sightseers just stared as if to say, "You must be awful dumb to get caught in something like this." I felt like a monkey in a zoo. Brewer's perspective was very, very emotional because it accounted for the disasters, victims, and their survivors' personal stories. It's a testimonial. It was written as a documentary and a dedication to the victims. I thought it was pretty appropriate since it gave accounts for the terrible disaster through the eyes of the survivors. Along with Brewer's perspective and the emotional appeal that she brought in with the book, I recognized a couple of components relating to emergency management, planning, and policy. And these were a lack of effective emergency warning systems such as sirens and an adequate weather system to detect a storm. Poor understanding both on professionals and the meteorologists and also of the public of the storm to how to track it, which resulted in inefficient communication to the public. And houses did not have any basements, which was another huge downfall and flaw of the Ruskin Heights community, which could have resulted or mitigated a lot of casualties and fatalities. Some external historical accounts from Kansas City's current emergency management website provides a brief timeline of disaster. In accordance with the Ruskin Heights tornado, the current state department was the Civil Defense Department. This department coordinated all civilian and governmental defense and emergency activities in Kansas City, including coordinating the city's response and relief efforts to natural disasters. It wasn't until 1998 that Kansas City implemented an Office of Emergency Management, and this was about 41 years after the tornado. Some continued information was that it wasn't until 1971 that tornadoes were actually able to be measured. This scale was the Fujita-Pearson tornado scale, which was it ranks tornadoes on a scale of 0 to 5, 0 being the least severe, 5 being the most severe, the most powerful. Safe room technology developed after these types of tornadoes was developed by FEMA, which protects families and homes against flying debris. It is a cost-effective mitigation technique against tornadoes. Typical price of a safe room costs between $3,000 and $5,000. Warning speed has been improved by the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, also known as NOAA. So for the impact on future of emergency management and planning and policy, like I said in the previous slides, more efficient communication systems for storm warnings like sirens and alerts, and also the mandatory inclusion of storm cellars, basements, and houses in high-risk areas like Ruskin Heights, which is also located in Tornado Alley that comprises the states of Texas, Kansas, Oklahoma, Missouri, Nebraska. Public education on how to prepare for tornadoes also became routine, along with stronger building codes. Here are my references, and that is the end of my presentation. Thank you for listening, and I look forward to responding to any feedback. Thank you.